why do you train, and what does defensible mean to you, right? I mean, it's such a broad term. There are a lot of people that go immediately to the DOJ guidance and the regulations, and no, it's something we have to do because we just have to do it. And it's unfortunately, I think, in the past, put training in this very black and white, really dull place. So very curious to see kind of what you think, and maybe Janelle, great to hear from you, and then would love to hear Michael's point of view, and just why train, why and what does defensibility really mean?
Great question. So really for us, we train so that our colleagues feel empowered to make business decisions. We think it can be very demotivating for colleagues to feel ill-prepared for their roles. So we like to arm our new hires with compliance guidance, and we're implementing even more robust refresher training to help them as they move through the organization and through their careers. To me personally, defensible really means ethical, right? We're devoted to our culture of ethics and integrity. We try really hard not to make our colleagues remember chapter and verse of regulations, but rather we focus on giving them the principles that they should really be focused on. And the example I really like to use is, when parents are raising children, you don't teach your children about the laws that dictate that stealing is illegal and that they'll be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Rather, you teach them moral values of hard work. And I like to think that we approach our colleague training in a similar fashion wherever possible. There are always going to be cases where you do need them to know chapter and verse of the law, but generally we try to just invoke the ethical principles of the firm.
Fabulous. Michael, your perspective?
Yeah, it's very, very similar to what Janelle laid out. I mean, we want to show, and I think we're both in regulated industries, and there have been there's been a focus on, or I'll say an enforcement focus on both of our industries in the broad sense. Financial services in the very, very broad sense, and life sciences, whether it's drug or device in the broad sense as well. So we have to be cognizant of the regulatory requirements. We have to be aware of the enforcement history against companies in our industry. So we need to make sure that is the bedrock foundation of where we start. What's been the history? And when I say the history, there's obviously been enforcement actions against a number of different life sciences companies going back decades. And many of those enforcement actions have resulted in corporate integrity agreements with the federal government, whether it's with the Office of Inspector General within Health and Human Services, or other agreements with the Department of Justice. So we have to make sure that we understand the requirements of those, and there are many, many of those agreements that we use as templates for building a compliance program or using it as our compliance work plan. So we understand that. So we start there, I guess, as a foundation. What are the minimum requirements beyond even, say, Department of Justice guidances or sentencing guidelines or OIG guidance, things like that. So once you understand what the framework is and what the foundation is, rather, you build from there. But I completely agree with Janelle that you have to be able to educate and communicate with your employees, show that it's a key tool, that communication is a key tool that can be used as what I'll call a business-focused resource, but it's really about enhancing ethical decision-making. You want to make sure that all of your employees, and not just commercial employees, but everyone is making ethical business decisions, that they're thinking about the right way to go, that they're avoiding the riskier behaviors, whatever they may be, in whatever jurisdiction and in whatever sort of interaction. So that's really understanding what the framework is in terms of what the minimum standards are, however specific or general the regulatory or the enforcement community wants, understanding what the agreements require, what the law requires, but then really giving your employees or our employees a framework to make ethical business decisions when they encounter different types of situations. So that's really the basis for what we're trying to do, understanding the framework, empowering them to make ethical decisions, similar to what Janelle mentioned at her company, and making sure that we are there as a resource. The ethics and compliance group is there as a resource when there are questions about which fork in the road do I take, or which path is more appropriate. That's really what we think about when we are when we're communicating with our employees or educating them but we want to make sure that we're a backstop, for questions to be answered or guidance to be provided.
Yeah, no, this is great to hear, and it's amazing to hear you both kind of use the word decisions over and over again, right? Because I kind of say learning or training to me is all about skill building, right? If we're just presenting information or we're just helping people kind of be able to regurgitate something back, we failed. Something defensible is something that's working, right? Quite simply, it has to be training that actually works and that actually builds a skill set that people can use to drive better business outcomes, right? To let a company grow sustainably without that derailer because of the CIA, or without that reputational damage that will come from that wrong taken action, or the culture, just the pure play workplace environment that we all create with our decisions and actions.